Raphael is my favorite character of all time, and even though you might find yourself not relating to that statement, I'm here to pour out my love and hatred towards him so that maybe, just maybe, I will win you over. But my love wasn't always there. In fact, I was a tad annoyed during my first meeting with him. So, what happened within the 40 hours of my very first playthrough that led me from feeling irritated to having literally dozens of gigabytes of safe for work pictures and videos of him on my hard drive? This is not a joke, by the way. And if you know me from my TikTok account, you will know that I'm being so serious right now. Well, my first playthrough was as exhausting as it was messy and chaotic. I really thought that there is some ominous countdown somewhere in the background of my gameplay that would turn me into an illithid the second the time ran out. This, as well as the unusual type of the game. I don't really play single player games, as well as the absolute lack of any knowledge related to D&D led me into rushing my gameplay, rushing everything basically. So when Raphael pulled up and started being his normal, vague, smug self, tossing weird puns at me just to change into a devil form in front of my eyes, I was confused. I was intrigued, but still very much confused. He told me he'll be around, but I haven't seen him throughout the entire exploration of the Underdark, so he kept haunting my mind, but he wasn't in the foreground of it just yet. In Act 2, I had no encounter with him in the Last Light Inn. I only met him at the entrance of Shar's Gauntlet, where he was even more vague and ended up stripping Astarion, which made me absolutely furious. But then I found a book signed with his name. This started stirring things within my mind, but I still wasn't quite is an understatement. Like, I seriously have not anticipated how brain altering this character is going to be for me later on. I killed Jurgir for him and got a wonderful scene where he just kept talking, this lovely, smooth, silky. But wait, Mephistopheles, hold on, like I don't know anything about D&D, but that name rings a bell. What about him? So then the Act 3 came around and I was so awfully lost and underleveled, I had no idea what to do. I ended up going to Wikipedias and looking for tutorials for Act 3, and this is when I found out that Raphael is in some place called Shares Kares that I completely missed. So before I purged my whole campaign and started a completely fresh playthrough, I read a bunch of more information and went to House of Hope. And this is exactly when the realization smacked me in the face. No words can possibly explain how I felt stepping through the portal. The absolute masterpiece of atmosphere that Larian crafted inside the House of Hope left such an impact on me that is beyond even my own comprehension. I was literally scared of walking around, and I mean it in a way that I would find myself wanting to leave the game, as if all of that was real. I started reading Raphael's commandments, got a jump scare from one of the tormented souls.
Raphael sees everything you do.
But wait, hold on. Surely we'll not jump straight to Act 3 in this video. There's so much we have to go through. And who knows, perhaps at the end of this video, you will find yourself fueling the ranks of Mice army. Just like with any other person in virtual or non-virtual world, there isn't much we can say about them after the very first meeting, except for some surface level observations. You can see Raphael after meeting a specific in-game condition and then heading over to one of the few locations in which his encounter will trigger. But no matter which one of these few places you will find yourself in, he always looks the same, flawless and completely out of place. Although now that we are mentioning flawless, I must say that my least favorite encounter is the one near Blighted Village. Larian Studios, as fantastic as they are, they still didn't manage to dodge the absolutely atrocious lighting shaders. I mean, look at this. Highlights on the waterline of the eyes just because it's daylight? Anyway, I remember the very first time I saw Raphael in detail. I was tired trying to switch to a night shift mode, forcing myself to stay till early morning. It was 3 a.m. and suddenly my shenanigans are interrupted by a cutscene outside of the blighted village. And as camera rotated around my character and revealed some stranger men approaching me, I felt my DILF meter tingle, but the second he opened his mouth,
My.
it went off charts. When it comes to Raphael, there are 3 different designs we have to go through. First one is my absolute favorite, his human form. Like I said before, peak silver fox design, ebony black hair, and I'm not hearing anyone out on brown color, by the way. In my heart, it will always be slightly desaturated, warm black. Even though Raphael is objectively very attractive, it's the little imperfections that make his design truly stand out. The 3 little dents near his hairline, a few sun marks on his gorgeous face, the facial hair that isn't quite there, but is dark enough to tint his skin, and my absolute favorite, totally diabolical combo. His dark eyes and eyelashes, low eyebrows with that small scar passing through the top of his left eyebrow, and the crow's feet. He's so stupid! Needless to say, his vessel is absolutely mesmerizing, but you know what I've noticed? When you download the mod called Raphael's Heads and slap his hollow shell onto your playable tab, 90% of the charm immediately goes away. Which now brings me to the next point that I will literally never shut up about: Andrew Wincott's performance.
My, what manner of BAFTA is this?
The only reason why any interactions with Raphael have such an impact is thanks to the godlike performance. I mean, all the facial expressions, all the gestures. Oh no, this line.
About
my God, no.
lesser
And I'm not saying that the rest of VAs didn't do a tremendously good job, but with Raphael, man, it's just something else. Well, onto the devil forms. As I mentioned previously, his devil or quote-unquote true form is definitely not my favorite. I adore it because how could I not? But there are things that go away the second he sheds his skin. The sun marks become less visible, the eyelashes don't pop out as strongly as in human form, same for the almost facial hair. However, we do get absolutely gorgeous set of horns, lizard-like texture of his skin, a cute rat tail, very impressive wings, and pointy ears. The face dimensions change a bit too. The face becomes a bit longer, which in turn sharpens his features a tiny bit. It also has very cool vertical lines that start at the top of his upper lip, and this is something I exaggerated in a fan art I made a while ago. I really like those. But along with the skin, he sheds his clothes, in a sense at least. Even though the visual design of his attire is the same, the dimensions of the clothes change. There's a cutout space for his tail and his pants, but the most interesting part are his boots. I've seen many people call them jester shoes in a mean way, but honestly, I freaking love them. And apparently he has small bells attached to them so that they jingle when he walks. This is so awfully Raphael coded that we shouldn't be surprised that it's even there. And if you think that it's stupid, cringe, or insert any kind of negative adjective here, then hear me out. Imagine having to run for your life, knowing that a literal devil is after you. You are mortal, your time is running out. But the same cannot be said about him. He takes his sweet time closing in on you, and the only sound signaling your inevitable end is the small, quiet, possibly barely audible jingling. If that was me, I would be shitting bricks. Apart from his purely visual design, I'd like to touch upon his in-game stats. Raphael is sitting very comfortably at an impressive level 16, which in D&D is quite a big deal, with an incredibly high amount of health, which is of course 666. Of course. But something I'd like you to pay special attention to is his strength score. I've been trying to make people see that Raphael is not body type 2 for months now. Yes, I know he's body type 2 in the code, but that is because the animations had to be synced somehow with his whole mesh, the whole 3D character model. And because we never see him canonically stripped or fully naked, we can only look at his perfectly tailored attire and assume how his bare body would look like. And looking at this, you are telling me that he is going to look the same as Twink, Astarion, or Gale, or Will, who have respectively 8, 8, and 9 strength points? That's literally impossible. And now we have the last form, the Ascended Fiend Raphael, my second favorite form of his. You can see this form only during the fight in the House of Hope in Act 3, after one of the soul pillars has been destroyed and Raphael is granted an opportunity to make a move in his next turn. The form is powerful, absolutely menacing, terrifying, and also hear me out. I've seen a fantastic theory not so long ago about how the 3 skulls in his ascended form might refer to 3 traitors and the whole form might be a reference to Satan in Divine Comedy. It's such an awesome theory that I will definitely be making a video about it and include it there, but for this essay, the love letter you are currently watching, we will stick only to canon. I remember that when I was doing an Ascended Fiend Raphael wallpaper for Wallpaper Engine, my online buddy said that his wings look like fried bacon, and honestly, I hate how accurate it is. And with that, we reach the end of the chapter. Special thanks to Alena Dubrovina, Wiktoria Kubien, and Artem Shapiro for designing this wonderful pixel devil. Much like his father Mephistopheles, Raphael is a being of contradictions.
Sorry, I have an appointment with someone far more interesting than you. We'll speak soon. But enough about my lesser pursuits. Why bother with trifles when I'm in the illustrious presence of my very favorite client?
I will not be covering every single one of his lines because that would take us over an hour and a half, but if you would be interested in hearing everything that is currently available in the game, I have a playlist linked in the description of this video that will take you to these kind of videos. From the very first moments, Raphael makes it crystal clear that he's a big deal. Not only posing as a possible ally capable of curing us, but also as a formidable opponent. He teases, he plays with his food, throws the promise of salvation at our feet, just to wipe the relief of our faces, signaling that he can, but he is not quite willing to rid us of the parasites just yet. If you finished Baldur's Gate 3, you should know exactly why he acts this way. And now that I think about it when recording the video, you won't be able to fully appreciate his character unless you pay attention to him during the second or third full playthrough. Why? Because Raphael's story is the epitome of the rule show, don't tell. Whilst there are many things we can say about him from the direct interactions, there is just as much being said from interactions with the environment or with other characters. Although Raphael doesn't bother with our parasites in Act 1, he still offers completely free of charge help, but under one condition. You must play as a race that isn't immune to the sleep potion. If the above is met and you end up taking the sleep potion from Priestess Gut, even before being introduced to Raphael, the Devil Man will send Corilla your way to kill the goblin and get you out of the shackles. And if you think about this logically, it's a clear sign of Raphael investing in us. He knows everything that's going on behind the scenes and is calculating ahead of time.
Mortals trifle themselves with free will, as if their betters have not molded every potential path ahead.
Before we, as players, even have the basic understanding of what is going on. But now you might think to yourself, Cloudy, you are biased, he's literally not that smart. No? Then allow me to offer you my hand as we descend into the Avernus. The House of Hope. Inside this mansion we can find many fascinating things that serve as an excellent insight to his character. All the way from the books you can find in the archive and the commandments to, of course, residents of the House of Hope. Be it Hope herself, Archivists, Tormented Souls, and of course Haarlep. A few cool things worth mentioning before I drop the absolutely insane lore on you you is that Raphael seems to be indulging himself in art. He has a set of organs in his archive and a few easels and brushes on the balconies of the archive and his bedroom. It always makes me wonder if he painted his own portraits or had someone make them for him. And of course, his attempts at poetry. I've heard people call it campy, but I can't help but think that they are just so silly and serious that it makes me want to violently make out with him. But when he's confronted about that, he suddenly says that it's not his primary interest.
I admit, it isn't my primary interest. Not by any stretch.
Yet he chooses to spend his free time writing inside his diaries in such a poetic manner that makes you think that he actually enjoys himself. Contradictions, I'm telling you. There are a few major things I'd like to mention that can be found inside House of Hope. The books you can find in the archive and their subjects are too connected to the main story of the game to be a simple coincidence.
My dear, nothing is coincidence.
Most of these books lay scattered across the floor and are conveniently bookmarked on very specific pages. There is a book that lets us know about Sarevok and his hidden cult of Baal. A book about Mirkul as well as Gondians, their mastery of infernal metal, which Gortash, who was kept inside House of Hope for God knows how long, used and abused in order to create the Steel Watch. This is all wild and fascinating, but my favorite piece of lore that can be found inside House of Hope is the guest book. There are plenty of names there, and some of them point to Raphael's interest in magical artifacts, magical puzzle boxes to be precise. Such puzzle boxes like the Astral Prism itself, and also the absolute cherry on top, Halastor Blackcloak. We go a little bit outside of the canon for that, but because he's mentioned per name and surname, I say we go for it. In short, Halastor is a legendary wizard who prolongs his life by cloning himself. Okay, so what about that? Well, do you remember what Raphael says after we kill Jurgir?
Do you know what happens when a devil is struck down on this charming plane of existence? It returns to the hells.
When we vanquish Raphael inside his domain, we do that while in Avernus. Hells, despite having 9 layers, are considered a single plane of existence, which means that Raphael, slaughtered in his lair, should be gone. Even Jahira and Karlak have dialogues about that. But is that the case? No.
Within the ball you see Raphael, broken and bloody, dangling above the maw of the archdevil Mephistopheles, who is preparing to devour him.
This leaves us with 2 options. Either his contact with Blackcloak proved to be useful, or his father craved a midnight snack and did something silly. Either way, it goes without saying that Raphael is extremely smart, but also full of himself. Ha! Get it? Cause okay. Intelligent and arrogant, most likely falls victim to his own ambition. He is a master of gathering data, gaining and using contacts to his best benefit. The reason why I said most likely is because the epilogues are very much an open ending. No matter how many theories I've read, the fandom is pretty much one-sided when it comes to Raphael and his inability to succeed against Asmodeus. I honestly don't really care. I think it would be very boring to have a bad dude in your universe who no one ever tries to challenge, so I root for Raphael. You go, Pookie. I personally think that it all depends on how much power there really is when it comes to wielding the crown of Karsus. From what I understood, the stuff outside of canon as well as the ones in-game, the crown was made to kill the previous god of magic, Mistral or whatever it was, and from in-game Annals of Karsus, we find out that apart from the crown, there are 2 more pieces of equipment that Karsus wielded at the end of the Netherrealm Empire. It was not just the crown, but also an orb and a scepter. Oh, and about that, guess what you can find out from interactions with the Archivist and Helsik?
His House of Hope is furnished with a great deal of treasures, many related to Karsus. But alas, he lacks the crown itself.
And awaiting installation, we have secured a rod that gathers the weave around it in great quantities, just as surely as shit gathers flies. years.
Could it be that Raphael is already in possession of these two artifacts? I wouldn't put it past him, but this is something that has been left to our imagination. Let's start with Jurgir. It appears that they aren't on the best of terms, and if we help Jurgir with his quest in Char's Gauntlet, he will visit our camp at some point in the future and let us know about the Diabolist inside Baldur's Gate, which points out to Jurgir actively plotting against Raphael. Aside from this, Jurgir offers an incredible insight on Raphael's smell.
There's something else, almost hidden by your fear stink. Cherries. Musk. And sulfur. Raphael! I can smell him all over you!
Corilla. When we enter the Devil's Den in Char's Caress while Kifrag Voss is alive, we can catch a glimpse of a conversation between the two, during which Voss will be mocked for his loyalty to Orpheus.
Is there anything duller than a loyal dog? I much prefer a cat. Meow.
This line suggests that Raphael isn't entirely fond of good employees, but the whole existence of Corilla totally denies that statement. I think the reason why Raphael used such line is purely to pull a power play on Voss, who is desperate and quite literally begging Raphael for cooperation, which the devil rejects. Raphael is very much a fan of efficiency and order. He's a control freak.
With the crown, I would impose perfect order, unity, efficiency, control.
Having a disobedient worker might prove to be enjoyable, giving him an excuse to inflict torture, but if he had only misbehaving employees, he wouldn't like the amount of time constant disappointments would cost him. Hope. I have always treated hope as a metaphor. Raphael is a devil, he deals with desperate souls, and the exact opposite of despair is hope. From the transcripts we know that he had been trying to tame her, but the dwarven woman lives up to her name, and despite losing her mind, she continues to hold on to hope. A cool thing that I have noticed though is that Hope's shackles are remarkably similar to the ones of Orpheus. This paired up with the fact that Hope is a very potent cleric leads me into believing that just like Orpheus, her power is being drained. Inside the dungeon we can find two platforms with crystals holding Hope in place. The exact placements of said crystals seem to be connected to the weird infernal machinery. It appears as if Hope was the one fueling the engines that keep House of Hope afloat. Haarlep, an incubus spy sent by Mephistopheles to interrupt Raphael with his schemes. It's hard to say when exactly they stepped into the House of Hope, but we can say for a fact that they aren't enjoying Raphael's company. Haarlep uses the very few minutes of interaction with the player to slander Raphael, and as much as I dislike this particular encounter, I must say that it offers an interesting insight into Raphael's character. By now we know damn well that Raphael is a narcissist. However, narcissism always comes from somewhere, and the fact that Haarlep isn't just a younger appearing but also a glamoured version of the master of the house makes me wonder if the whole change of appearance points out to some insecurities. Aside from that, I also noticed a very saddening detail about the incubus magic and one of the Haarlep's lines.
Every touch a lie of true love.
Raphael hides nothing from me, can deny me nothing.
Which leads me to suspecting that Raphael might be under the influence of the incubus charm, which could be compared to being drugged. I've seen somewhere that because cambions are technically half human, that means that they still do possess some needs and desires of love, affection, and fulfillment coming from both of these. So having those needs met in an artificial way from someone who, well, hates you, man, that really makes me sad. If there are no more people claiming that Raphael has no romantic or sexual feelings towards the player, then I cease to exist. Raphael uses not vulgar but sensual seduction in order to get what he wants. Our signature on a contract that will ensure that he receives the crown. Despite me being a firm believer that the relationship between Raphael and player is purely based on business, I am also convinced that there is room for mutual respect. He meets us when we are lost, desperate, and so weak that he could annihilate us with something as simple as a glance. But as the time goes by, we prove ourselves by slaying Jurgir, reminding Keterik of mortality, surviving the Githyanki raid. All of that impresses him, and he states so himself.
I'll admit, you've impressed me. I wasn't sure you'd make it this far.
He even bet Corilla that we reach Baldur's Gate in one piece.
You've put me out of pocket, you know. Raphael bet me 5 soul coins you'd reach the city in one piece.
And the soul coins that Corilla gave him up as the result of the gamble can be found inside his vault. It would yield him no benefit to see us fail, but he really does seem to want us to become his business partners. I think that it's mostly visible when we confront him in his lair. Just a simple word delivered with such precision gives me chills every time I listen to it.
You...
I believe that stealing from Raphael is a complete bitch move. Everything points out to him honestly believing that he's offering a fair deal, and when we end up taking the contract and handing the crown over to Mistra or to Gale, he's still so surprisingly kind.
I should snuff you out and make coin of your soul.
My suspicion is that it's due to Tav being controlled by us and him breaching the fourth wall and being interested in our real world. But like I said, there's no place for romantic feelings in here, and that's because he's taken. We are happily married and have 6 children. No, but seriously, Raphael and Mephistopheles. From the information in game we can find out that Raphael loathes his father. We can hear him make some soured comments about the Archdevil. We can find this quote-unquote offering in front of a statue referencing his parent. There's a lot of speculations whether Raphael is a Nepo baby, and my suggestion is that he might have some perks coming from his heritage, one of those being the ability to wield hellfire. But I think that Raphael is mainly a self-made devil. Perhaps he had a nicer start compared to the rest of the cambions in Hells, but cambions in general are treated like vermin, and seeing him climb so high up, so far and beyond to move outside of father's influence by leaving Kanya in order to set up his own base in Avernus, that really does say a lot about him. Keep in mind that Raphael has been officially recognized as dangerous by not just 1, but 2 archdevils. It's not just Mephistopheles sending Haarlep to spy on him and interrupt his schemes, it is also Zariel sending a literal auditor to his House of Hope to frequently check on him and the contents of his mansion. A few months ago, I made a theory about Orpheus, Astral Prism, Orphic Hammer, and Raphael, and how all of them are connected. When you find yourself inside the astral plane near Orpheus, you can go to the top left corner of the map to find a Githyanki disc describing a devil making a deal with Lakith. It is not said which devil made the deal, but one thing is clear. The astral prism was the object of the transaction. Initially, I thought that Raphael was the one to trade the prism, but the more people I spoke to, the more convinced I have become that it was actually Mephistopheles trading the artifact. On top of that, from the information in-game, we can find out that Gortash and the Dark Urge stumbled upon a book called Accelerated Grand Design while raiding the Archdevil's vault. The book showed the Crown of Karsus being used to do, well, everything that has been done in-game. But the question is, why was the book even there, and what would Mephistopheles possibly achieve? Was he planning to use the crown for that purpose himself? And if so, what for? Why would an archdevil or any devil be interested in an army of soulless beings, the Illithids? Like I mentioned before, it's hard to say what exactly Larian was aiming for. But knowing all of that, there is one thing that should be considered. What if the whole game of Baldur's Gate 3 is basically a huge Raphael versus Mephistopheles duel, but most of it is done behind the scenes. The whole idea that Raphael is trying his best to prove to the whole realms and to his own father that he's so much more than whatever he made him be. He's not a cambion, he isn't a half mortal. He's capable and he's going to show it to anyone who doesn't dare to believe. Honestly, I can connect with him over here on a spiritual level, and this is one of the factors, one of the many factors that make me literally adore and love him so much. It's a shame that he's looking into means to literally punish all of the existence, but honestly, not to worry guys, I can fix him. If you watch all the way through this video, you are a real trooper. Seriously, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed, and I cannot wait to see your opinions in the comments, or maybe some theories or whatever else you might want to drop in there. But if I will see, I swear to God, if I will see a comment being like, pity he's bad and bad, you're getting lobotomized. I'm sending an airstrike to your location. I will literally spawn inside your room and I will steal your internet, and I'm not even joking because I'm Polish, so I'm literally born with a thief perk. But yeah, either way, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time, possibly with more Raphael stuff. Bye bye.